Mary Sarumi is next from Climate Save Ottawa. The PowerPoint.
Hi, everyone. I would like to thank the council for this opportunity to delegate today. I would like to explain why we need to address the animal agriculture in the climate change master plan, and hope in doing so, people will see the impact animal agriculture has on our climate change and our planet. Next slide, please. I'll explain the plant-based treaty, but first I just wanted to address this graph from the 2020 Climate Change Master Plan. Agriculture is underreported in the Climate Action Plan, as representing only 3% of the greenhouse gas emissions. The inventory is looking at production in the city itself, but should also count embodied carbon of food. A more realistic number is from the IPCC, which notes that a third of the global greenhouse gas emissions come from food, including 30% of methane. Fossil fuels are not produced in the city, yet we address how to reduce them, and I'm hoping that we can do the same for animal agriculture. Next slide, please. The plant-based treaty motto is eat plants, plant trees. It is a science-based solution initiative drawing on the work of the Intergovernmental Panel on the Climate Change Assessment Report and the Stockholm Resilience Center Research on Planetary Boundaries. We look at how to best communicate and act on scientific policy findings to help people understand how animal agriculture contributes to the climate emergency and need for a plant-based food system. Next slide, please. This year, we have added the plant-based treaty 1.5 upgrade. Next slide, please. So in addition to endorsing the call for a global plant-based treaty, where there is jurisdiction, Ottawa and other cities can implement plant-based food policies and solutions. This could involve increasing accessibility to plant-based food at schools, hospitals, daycares, care homes, prisons, counseling buildings, public events, businesses, and more. The next slide, please. So for example, the following are things New York City is doing to optimize a plant-based city. They have Meatless Monday and Plant-Powered Fridays at public schools, serving plant-based food at all events, consumption-based inventory for greenhouse gas emissions with C40 cities, default plant-based in the hospitals, expansions of a lifestyle medicine program in 6 of their public hospitals, and plant-based food policy incentives. Next slide, please. Another example is the University of Guelph Child Care Center and Learning Center, which is now plant-based. Dr. Catherine McKevy notes, the Child Care and Learning Center at the University of Guelph has proven how feasible, sensible this transition can be. The CCLC has significantly reduced its footprint, its waste costs, and they demonstrate leadership and illuminate the path for effective organization and social change. Only the adopting a plant-based diet can the rights of all children to a habitable planet be assured. Next slide, please. In making the change, the University of Guelph and the Learning Center has achieved carbon savings of 74% in their meals. And the next slide, please. The following slide shows the impact of animal agriculture and notes the shift to plant-based is key to limiting warming to 1.5 and avoiding societal disruption. Next slide, please. Dr. Joseph Poore notes that we need to take individual action on all fronts to limit global temperatures. And the biggest thing an individual can do is adopt a plant-based diet. Next slide, please. Animal agriculture is responsible for around 1/3 of the methane emissions as well. According to the 2021 United Nations Methane Assessment Report, cutting methane is the fastest and most efficient way to slow global warming. Sorry. As George Monbiot says, this makes cutting methane not less important, but more important. Given that animal farming is a leading cause of human-caused methane emissions, developing sharp cuts to methane this decade is impossible without Indian animal agriculture and shifting to a plant-based food system. Next slide. This slide shows a cow's milk has the highest emissions, acidification, eutrophication, land use, and water use of any milk.
So I'm just gonna say that your 5 minutes is up now. If you could just please wrap up.
Okay, so yeah, I'll just say that all mammals on Earth, since they're farmed animals, 30% are humans, and only 4% are wild animals. So we need to move to a plant-based diet. And thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Councillor Brown has a question for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the delegate's presentation. Mr. Chair, Ottawa, as we know, is an agricultural city, and many of my residents, in addition to residents of my rural colleagues, are farmers. And I just want to ask the delegate, Mr. Mayor, in terms of land use for animals, and as a farmer myself, I can speak to this personally. There are particular pieces of land, Mr. Chair, in the rural area that are not able to be farmed by the farmer. And that could be due to a high water table. It could be because the soil is particularly rocky. But one thing that you can do is graze animals. And immediately what comes to mind, Mr. Chair, in my ward is a sheep farm, whose land or this farmer's land is particularly rocky. And if you were to drive a farm implement through it, you would destroy the farm implement. But what it is good for is grazing by this farmer's flock of sheep. I would also say, Mr. Chair, that at a time when we're trying to lower food prices and help struggling families, I think moving away from traditional agriculture would actually make that more difficult. We have some proud farmers in our city, Mr. Chair, who do the good work every day to make sure people in Ottawa and around the world eat. And I would think moving away from agriculture would be a mistake. I would also ask, Mr. Chair, if the delegate has any comments in regards to anaerobic digestion. And that, Mr. Chair, is a power generating source on farm that feeds the grid. Manure is a constant input for anaerobic digestion. It's a very efficient way of extracting a resource that otherwise would not have been used and turning that into a power source. And in Ottawa's Energy Evolution Plan, we're looking at moving away from emitting sources of power generation. And one of those ways for renewable natural gas, for example, could be done by anaerobic digestion with manure produced by animal livestock on farms. So I just thought maybe the delegate might have an opinion on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Ms. Rumi?
Yeah, sure. I would like to say that a lot of farmers are pushing veganic farming now. That uses less pesticides and less fertilizers, which is better for the soil. I've read up on the digesters, and it's just really another way of working around the true problem. Also, land that is only good for sheep, it still uses a lot of land, and so it's not good. It doesn't reduce your CO2, it increases your methane and CO2. And also, this time we're moving towards food insecurity. And it's a proven fact that beans and lentils are cheaper than cows and sheep and pigs.
Okay, thank you very much.